I was sitting in the living room watching the late afternoon light filter through the curtains when my daughter called. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. "Mom," she said, "we're not going tomorrow." "But I sold your beach house." The silence that followed was deafening. My throat tightened as I gripped the phone. She had said it so casually, as if she were telling me she'd forgotten to buy milk. 45 years of memories, birthdays, Christmases, summers, by the ocean, Robert's laughter echoing on the porch, all reduced to a line in her calm, calculated voice. "And that old truck, too. Edward said we didn't need it. The money's already transferred." She paused, waiting for me to react. When I didn't, she added softly, "It's for us, Mom. For our future." Then the line went dead. "My name is Eleanor Hart. I am 70 years old, and until that call, I thought I knew my daughter, Claire. I had become a widow only 6 months earlier. My husband, Robert, had passed away one quiet morning at the breakfast table. He had kissed my forehead, poured my coffee, and whispered, "Good morning, my love." Those were his final words. Since then, Claire had been visiting more often. She accompanied me to the grocery store, handled the bills, even told me I should rest more. "You're not alone, Mom," she'd say, with that smile I mistook for love. But now I understood. It was never about love. It was about convenience. Because what my daughter didn't know was that Robert had left me something she never expected. I set the phone down on the table as if it might explode. The house was too quiet, the clock too loud. I waited for the grief, for the tears, for the trembling that had followed me like a shadow since Robert's funeral. But something else arrived instead. A strange calm, a steadiness I hadn't felt in months, because I remembered the envelope. 3 days before he died, Robert had stood in our bedroom doorway with a soft smile and a manila envelope in his hand. "Ellie," he'd said, "put this in your top dresser drawer. Open it when you feel ready." I had slipped it between my sweaters, and then, drowning in condolences and casseroles, I forgot. Until now. I walked down the hallway, passing the photographs Claire always said were outdated. Robert in his fishing hat, Claire on her 5th birthday, frosting on her cheeks, our wedding day, sunshine in black and white. I opened the drawer. The envelope was exactly where I had left it, my name written across the front in Robert's neat handwriting. My fingers shook as I slid it out. The paper was warm from the lamplight. I sat on the edge of the bed we had shared for 45 years and breathed in the faint scent of his aftershave lingering in the quilt. Not yet, I told myself. First, I needed to be sure of one thing. I powered up the old laptop and checked my bank account. A deposit, recent and brazen. They had moved fast. They always do when they believe you have no fight left. I smiled, a small, private smile that would have frightened Claire if she had seen it. "All right, Robert," I whispered. "Show me what you've been keeping safe." I opened the envelope. Inside were deeds, certificates, a narrow stack of letters, and one simple line written in his hand. "You are not alone, Ellie, and you are not helpless." The first document I pulled out was thick with legal stamps and seals. My eyes skimmed the words, but the numbers froze me in place. Properties, shares, accounts. For decades, Robert had worked as a bus driver. He came home every evening with grease on his hands, smelling of diesel and coffee, always tired, but always smiling. I thought I knew every detail of his life, every sacrifice. But I hadn't known this. Over the years, he had quietly invested every spare penny, turning our modest savings into something extraordinary. The deeds listed houses, a small motel on the coast, and even an apartment building downtown. There were also bank certificates with amounts that looked unreal, far beyond anything I had ever imagined. and then, folded neatly at the bottom, a letter addressed to me. My dearest Eleanor, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer by your side. Forgive me for keeping secrets, but I wanted to protect you from worry and protect us from Claire's greed. She doesn't know who I really was. She doesn't know who you really are. You are the heir to everything, Ellie. The properties, the accounts, the investments. You are far richer than anyone could imagine. But this wealth is not just money. It is security, power, and freedom. Use it wisely. My tears blurred the ink, but I kept reading. Robert had built a quiet empire under my very nose, and he had hidden it all for me. Claire thought she had stripped me of everything by selling the beach house and Robert's truck. In reality, those were crumbs compared to what truly belonged to me. I folded the letter carefully, pressing my lips to his handwriting. "Thank you, Robert," I whispered. "You planned for this, didn't you? You knew for the first time since his death, I felt him beside me, not as memory, but as a shield." The following morning, I sat in the kitchen with Robert's documents spread out across the table. The sun was rising, painting the walls gold, but my heart was colder than steel. Claire believed she had won. She thought she had reduced me to a poor, helpless widow, but what she didn't know was that she had walked straight into Robert's trap. The beach house she sold? Fraudulent! She had no right to sign the deed. The truck? That, too, was mine by law, and every penny she thought she had stolen was nothing more than pocket change compared to what Robert had secured in my name. I dialed the number of the only person I trusted outside my family, Mr. Peterson, Robert's longtime lawyer. He had been at the funeral offering condolences with a quiet sincerity that felt genuine. "Mrs. Hart," he said warmly when he answered, "it's good to hear from you. How are you holding up?" "I'm doing better than my daughter thinks," I replied, my voice firmer than it had been in months. "Mr. Peterson, I've found something." "Papers. Robert left me. I need to see you immediately." There was a pause on the line, then a serious shift in his tone. "Bring them to my office tomorrow morning, and, Eleanor, don't speak of this to anyone else." Not yet. When I hung up, I noticed my reflection in the kitchen window. For months, I had seen only a broken woman staring back. But now, in the faint light of dawn, I saw something different. Resolve. Claire thought she had left me with nothing. She believed her betrayal was the final word. But she was about to learn that a mother's silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes, silence means strategy. By the time I stepped into Mr. Peterson's office the next day, the city was buzzing with weekday noise. Cars honked, people hurried, and yet I felt as if I were moving through another world entirely. My world had changed overnight. His office was elegant but modest, wooden shelves lined with thick books, the faint scent of leather and paper lingering in the air. He rose from behind his desk as I entered, offering a firm handshake. "Mrs. Hart," he said, "please sit. Now, let's see what Robert left behind." I laid the envelope on the polished desk. His eyes scanned the deeds, the bank certificates, the investment statements. The deeper he read, the more his brows furrowed. "Eleanor," he finally said, leaning back in his chair, "your husband was remarkable. Everything here is legitimate. You are the sole owner of multiple properties, significant shares, and accounts that make you a wealthy woman, far wealthier than your daughter could ever imagine." A weight lifted from my chest, but in its place came something sharper: determination. "And the beach house?" I asked. He shook his head. "Your daughter's sale has no legal standing. She had no authority to transfer the property. We can reverse the transaction immediately." I smiled faintly. "Good. Because that house isn't just wood and paint. It's Robert. It's my family." "She tried to erase him, Mr. Peterson." I won't allow it." He nodded, his voice steady. "There is more. From what I see here, you also hold ownership of the apartment building where Claire and Edward live. Legally, it has always been yours." The words sank in like a secret weapon sliding into my hand. Claire thought she had stripped me bare. She was living under my roof without even knowing it. And very soon, she would find out. When I left Mr. Peterson's office, the city seemed different. The same buildings, the same streets. But now I walked them with secrets heavier than gold. I carried power in my handbag, disguised in folded papers and Robert's careful handwriting. The irony made me laugh under my breath. Claire thought she had taken everything. She believed she had reduced me to a poor widow who would soon be begging for scraps. And yet, at that very moment, she was living in an apartment that legally belonged to me. I took the bus home, sitting by the window as the neighborhoods blurred past. Mothers tugged children along sidewalks. Shopkeepers swept their storefronts. People hurried with bags and worries. All of them carried private battles, silent stories. Mine had just taken a turn no one could have predicted. At home, the phone rang. I didn't need to look at the caller ID to know who it was. "Mom," Claire's voice was soft, almost sweet. "I just wanted to let you know we transferred the money from the house and the truck. We even deposited your share into your account. 30%. That's fair, right? Edward says it'll help you live comfortably for a while. 30%. Of my own belongings." My jaw tightened, but I forced my tone calm. "How generous." Claire chuckled lightly, mistaking my restraint for gratitude. "We're leaving this afternoon, Mom. 6 months in Europe, maybe longer if Edward's business works out. But don't worry, when we get back, we'll help you find a smaller place. Something that fits your needs. Fits my needs." As if she knew me better than I knew myself. "Safe travels, Claire," I said simply. "Oh, Mom. I knew you'd understand. You've always been so compassionate." "Love you." The line clicked dead, and for the first time in months, I laughed. A deep, startling laugh that echoed through the empty kitchen. I sat at the kitchen table, Robert's documents spread before me like a secret map. My laughter faded into silence, replaced by a steady rhythm in my chest. This wasn't grief anymore. This was clarity. Claire and Edward thought they had robbed me clean, but in truth, they had sold a beach house that was still legally mine. They had disposed of a truck that would return to me in due time, and they had deposited my share into my own account as if tossing crumbs to a stray dog. I opened the laptop again and checked the deposit. A pitiful sum compared to the fortune Robert had built in silence. They truly believed this was all I had. It was almost poetic. I called Mr. Peterson once more. "I want to proceed quietly," I told him. "Recover the beach house. Secure the truck. And most importantly, give me complete control over the building where Claire lives. But no one must know I am behind this." He agreed, though his voice carried hesitation. "Mrs. Hart, may I ask, what do you plan to do?" "I plan to let my daughter teach herself the lesson I could never teach her," I replied. "She wanted to treat me like a burden. Then she will learn what it means to live at the mercy of someone else's choices." When I hung up, I brewed tea, my hands steady for the first time in months. From my window, I watched Claire and Edward load their expensive luggage into a cab. They laughed, kissed, made plans for a dazzling future in Europe. They didn't even glance toward my house. How fitting, I thought. They believed they were leaving me behind. But they were only walking deeper into my shadow. That night I slept better than I had in months. No tears, no restless pacing through empty rooms. Just silence and a sense that Robert was beside me, nodding in approval. The next morning, I began my routine as though nothing had changed. I watered the flowers in the front yard, greeted neighbors with polite smiles, and accepted their pitying looks. "Eleanor, dear, are you managing all alone?" Aurora, my longtime neighbor, asked gently, her eyes searching mine. "Yes, Aurora," I said, forcing a weary smile. "Claire and Edward went off to Europe. I'll be fine." She patted my hand with sympathy, the kind that's both genuine and tinged with relief that the tragedy wasn't hers. "If you need anything, groceries company, please don't hesitate." I thanked her, hiding the spark of amusement rising inside me. Let them think I was the abandoned widow. The role suited me perfectly. Behind closed doors, however, I was something else entirely. I spread the documents across the kitchen table, studying them like a general preparing for war. The building Claire thought was Edward's crown jewel was mine. The motel by the coast. Mine. Even the downtown condo she had bragged about to her friends. Mine. Every property she flaunted as part of her lifestyle was rooted in Robert's silent empire, now entrusted to me. And soon, every piece of it would return under my direct control. By the second week, Mr. Peterson called with progress. "The fraudulent sale of the beach house has been annulled." "It's back in your name, Mrs. Hart. The buyers were compensated, so there won't be any trouble." I smiled, tracing my finger across the deed. Good. That house was never hers to give. There was a pause before he added, "Next, we'll move on the apartment building. Once that's secured, you'll have the leverage you're looking for." Leverage. Exactly. Because when Claire returned, she would discover that she hadn't stolen my future. She had only destroyed her own. 3 weeks passed in silence. No calls, no postcards, no messages from Claire. To her, I no longer existed. She had crossed me off her life like an outdated bill. But the world has a way of turning tides. Aurora came rushing to my door one afternoon, her apron still dusted with flour. "Eleanor, you won't believe this. Edward is in trouble with the bank. My brother-in-law works there. He says Edward's loans are under investigation. Apparently, he used the apartment as collateral, but it turns out he doesn't actually own it." I hid my smile behind a feigned gasp. "Is that so?" "Yes, and now there's talk that Claire is on her way back. The debts are piling up, and the so-called business in Europe, well, it was never real." I thanked her for the gossip and closed the door. Alone again, I allowed myself a quiet laugh. The threads were unraveling exactly as Robert must have foreseen. The next morning, Mr. Peterson confirmed what Aurora had said. "Mrs. Hart, the building transfer is complete. You now have direct control, and as for Edward, he's in deep water. The banks will soon realize he committed fraud. It won't be long before Claire comes running home." "Perfect," I murmured. That evening I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, staring at the stars. Robert had always told me they were the souls of the departed watching over us. "Thank you, my love," I whispered into the night. "Your plan is unfolding just as you intended." The phone rang the next morning. Mr. Peterson again. His voice carried a weight of satisfaction. "Eleanor, she's back. Claire landed at the airport this morning. Alone. The word was sweeter than honey. Edward had abandoned her, just as she had abandoned me. Claire showed up at her old apartment late at night. I didn't see it with my own eyes, but Aurora, ever the neighborhood reporter, told me every detail the next morning. She came with just one suitcase, Eleanor. No Edward, no fancy bags. She looked pale, worn out, like she hadn't slept in days. And get this, she didn't even have her keys. The superintendent had to let her in with the emergency copy. I thanked Aurora, though I already knew what was coming. By that afternoon, Mr. Peterson confirmed. The eviction notice had been delivered to Claire personally. She had 30 days to vacate. That evening, my phone rang. The desperation in her voice was almost unrecognizable. "Mom?" I need to talk to you. Urgently, I sipped my tea before answering. Good morning, Claire. How was Europe? Mom, please, this is serious. I got this letter yesterday. It says I have to leave my apartment in 30 days. It must be a mistake. Some company I've never heard of, Robert Investments Incorporated, is trying to evict me. Do you know anything about this? Robert Investments. My heart ached with both pride and sorrow at his chosen name. I kept my voice steady. An eviction. How strange. Are you sure it's legitimate? Yes, I don't understand any of this. Edward left me in Paris, Mom. He ran off with another woman. And now I come back to this. There it was. The cracks in her perfect little world had split wide open. I'm sorry to hear that, Claire, I said softly. Mom, can I come see you? Please. I don't have anyone else. The irony was almost too much to bear. She had discarded me with one phone call, and now here she was, begging to come home. Of course, honey, I replied gently. Come whenever you want. An hour later, I opened my front door to a sight I never thought I'd see. Claire stood on the porch with 2 suitcases and eyes red from crying. Her once perfect hair was tangled, her expensive coat wrinkled. She looked smaller somehow, like the confident woman who had left me behind had been stripped down to a frightened child. Mom, she whispered, her voice trembling. For a second, I thought she might throw her arms around me. Instead, she hesitated, as if remembering the way she had last spoken to me. Cold, detached, cruel. Come in, Claire, I said softly, stepping aside. Would you like some coffee? She nodded, dropping her bags with a thud and sinking into the kitchen chair that had once been her father's favorite spot. I poured her a cup and set it before her. She wrapped her hands around it like it was a lifeline. Mom, I'm so sorry, she began, her words tumbling out. I know I treated you horribly. I know what I did with the house, the truck. It was unforgivable. And now Edward? Her voice broke. He left me. He lied about everything. There was never any business in Europe. He just wanted to escape his debts. And now the banks are after me, too. They say I'm responsible because he used my name on the loans. I leaned against the counter, keeping my expression calm, almost motherly. That's terrible, honey. Truly. She looked up, eyes desperate. Mom, I don't have money. I don't have a job. I don't even know where I'll sleep if they kick me out of the apartment. Could I stay here? Just for a while. There it was. The moment I had been waiting for. After selling my memories for cash and leaving me for dead, my daughter now begged for refuge in the home she once dismissed. Of course, Claire, I said gently. This will always be your home. An hour later, I opened my front door to a sight I never thought I'd see. Claire stood on the porch with 2 suitcases and eyes red from crying. Her once perfect hair was tangled, her expensive coat wrinkled. She looked smaller somehow, like the confident woman who had left me behind had been stripped down to a frightened child. Mom, she whispered, her voice trembling. For a second, I thought she might throw her arms around me. Instead, she hesitated, as if remembering the way she had last spoken to me. Cold, detached, cruel. Come in, Claire, I said softly, stepping aside. Would you like some coffee? She nodded, dropping her bags with a thud and sinking into the kitchen chair that had once been her father's favorite spot. I poured her a cup and set it before her. She wrapped her hands around it like it was a lifeline. Mom, I'm so sorry, she began, her words tumbling out. I know I treated you horribly. I know what I did with the house, the truck. It was unforgivable, and now Edward, her voice broke. He left me. He lied about everything. There was never any business in Europe. He just wanted to escape his debts. And now the banks are after me, too. They say I'm responsible because he used my name on the loans. I leaned against the counter, keeping my expression calm, almost motherly. "That's terrible, honey." "Truly." She looked up, eyes desperate. "Mom, I don't have money. I don't have a job. I don't even know where I'll sleep if they kick me out of the apartment. Could I stay here? Just for a while?" There it was, the moment I had been waiting for. After selling my memories for cash and leaving me for dead, my daughter now begged for refuge in the home she once dismissed. "Of course, Claire," I said gently. "This will always be your home." The following morning, Claire appeared in the kitchen, holding something in her hand. "Mom, I found this in my suitcase," she said. Frowning, it was the very envelope with Robert's handwriting, the smaller one. "It must have gotten mixed up with my things." "It has your name on it." I kept my face neutral, though my heart quickened. Strange. "Let me see." She handed it over, curiosity burning in her eyes. I unfolded the note again, pretending to read it for the first time. "A safety deposit box," I said softly. "Downtown. Number 247. Claire's eyes lit up, desperate hope flaring in them. "Do you think there's money in it?" "Something we could use?" I gave her a measured look. "It belonged to your father." "Whatever it is, we'll see tomorrow." The next day, we went together to the bank. The manager led us down the narrow corridor lined with metal doors. My hands trembled slightly as I slid the key into the lock of box 247. Inside was a velvet pouch and a folded letter. Claire snatched the pouch open before I could stop her. Jewels spilled across the table, emerald rings, pearl necklaces, bracelets gleaming with diamonds. She gasped. "Mom, this must be worth a fortune." I picked up Robert's letter and read aloud. "These jewels belong to our family. Some are heirlooms, some are investments. Their value is great, but remember, they are meant to protect, not to spoil. Use them only when the lesson has been learned." Claire's hands trembled as she held up a ruby necklace, the stones catching the light. "We could pay off the debts with this. I could finally breathe again." I studied her carefully. She saw salvation in the jewels. But I saw something else. Robert's final test. Because the true treasure wasn't the jewels. It was the choice she would make. That night, Claire spread the jewels across the kitchen table like a gambler, laying down her last cards. "Mom," she whispered, "these could save us. We can sell them, pay the banks, and start over." I watched her, my face calm, my heart heavy. "And what lesson would that teach you, Claire? That money erases betrayal? That diamonds can buy back trust?" Her eyes filled with tears. "No, Mom. But maybe it can buy me time to prove I've changed." I placed Robert's letter back on the table between us. "Then let's see if you've learned, my daughter. Because these jewels are not your rescue. They're your reflection. What you do next will show me who you truly are." She lowered her gaze, finally silent. And for the first time, I felt Robert's presence in the room, whispering through the quiet, "It's time, Ellie. She's ready." "And that," I said, turning to you, "is how my daughter learned that betrayal has consequences, and that love, real love, teaches before it saves." If you've stayed with me this far, tell me, what would you have done in my place? Comment below and let's talk. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story. More life-changing lessons are coming your way.